Today we are going to carve permanent maxillary central incisor, the one what you are seeing here. So this is the finished product what we are going to achieve today. To do this, we need certain instruments. The armamentarium required is, first of all, we need the wax block. Just make sure the wax block is smooth without any air bubbles or some kind of depressions or something. It should be smooth and good. Of course, we need a Lectron carver. This is the main instrument which you're going to carve the tooth. We need the ruler just to make sure we do the right size, and of course we need the polishing cloth. So let's see the basic steps how we can carve a permanent maxillary central incisor. If you measure the length of the crown, the permanent maxillary central incisor measures to about 11.3 millimeters. So if you measure this, if you see this dimension, it's about 11.3 to 11.5 millimeters. So that is what we're going to achieve. To do that, we have to measure 11.3 millimeters or maybe 12 millimeters and mark on the wax block. So I am measuring 12 millimeters on the wax block and marking it. And I'm going to draw a line now. This line measures about 11.3 millimeters, 12 millimeters, right? So the same thing what we have to do is we have to do the same thing on the other four sides as well. So mark the line. So if you see this, yeah, you can just continue. Right. Now once you have that, now this is where we are going to do the carving. We are going to make the crown of the tooth. Before that, what we can do is we can label our sides. So this is the front facing side, so I label it as labial. So that is the labial side. You can see that, okay. The labial side. The opposite of that will be definitely your palatal side. So I'm going to label it as P, palatal side. This is a right central incisor, so this surface, because this is labial, so this surface becomes mesial, and opposite of that will be distal. So now we have four sides. Once we do that, the crown has to be divided into 3 equal parts. So what we can do is divide the measured dimension into 3 equal parts. So this becomes incisal 1/3. Yes. Now if you look at this markings on the crown, incisal 1/3, middle 1/3, and the cervical 1/3. Now these are the 3 thirds of this particular crown. Once we do that, next step would be to draw a midline on all the 4 surfaces. So draw a midline throughout on all the 4 surfaces. Now go on to the labial side. Now if you look at this particular tooth here, now the dimension, if you measure from here to here, that is your mesial to distal, this is called as mesiodistal dimension. Now the mesiodistal dimension can be measured in 2 areas. One at the neck of the tooth, and 2 at the crown of the tooth. When we say the crown, it is at the point where the tooth is contacting the adjacent tooth. So here you have lateral incisor, here you have the central incisor. This is the left sided tooth. So here you have the central incisor, and here you have the lateral incisor. So this tooth is going to get contacted with the central incisor, the incisal area, and this tooth is going to get contacted with the lateral incisor at the junction of the incisal in the middle 1/3 area. Now this diameter is definitely wider, is more than the diameter here. The mesiodistal diameter at the crown is more than the mesiodistal diameter at the cervix. The mesiodistal diameter at the crown will be of about 9 millimeters, and at the cervix is about 6.5 millimeters. So this convergence is called as cervical convergence. The tooth is converging cervically. Yeah, so we have to achieve that. The mesiodistal diameter here is 9 millimeters, whereas the mesiodistal diameter here is 6.5 millimeters. To do that, what we have to do is we have to do some markings. So when I say 9 millimeters at the crown, what we can do is we can take 4.5 millimeters on either side. I'll mark a point here, 4.5 millimeters on either side of the midline. Here is one point, here is one point. 4.5 millimeter this side of the midline, 4.5 millimeter this side of the midline. Similarly, 3.5 millimeters this side of the midline and 3.5 this side, because here the mesiodistal diameter is 6.5 millimeters. We can keep a 7, later we can always reduce. Three 0.5 here, 0.5 here. Then we have to join those 2 points. On both the sides. Just extend the joint point. Once we have this, we need to remove this extra area, whatever we have here. This part needs to be removed. Slowly remove the wax layer by layer. Go on till the lingual surface. Repeat the same thing on the other side as well. Remove the wax very slowly. Be careful. If you're not careful enough, there are chances that you might chip off the edges of the wax block. So here we are working on the proximal surfaces first. We marked on the labial surfaces and we are working on the proximal surfaces. You see this? So now this is called as cervical convergence. Towards the cervix, the tooth is converging. Now if I turn the tooth, the carved tooth here, now this is either mesial or distal side. You can see that on the labial outline, you can see the labial outline is convex and the lingual outline is convex to begin with, concave and again convex little bit slightly. So labial outline is a curve, convex curve that has the highest point, the crest is at the cervical 1/3. Similarly, the lingual outline is also a curve. The highest point again is in the cervical 1/3. So both labial curve, the highest point lies here, the cervical 1/3, and the lingual curve, the highest point also lies in the cervical 1/3. Now this highest point is called as crest of curvature. The crest of curvature on the labial side or labial outline remains in the cervical 1/3. The crest of curvature on the lingual outline also remains in the cervical 1/3. Now this diameter is called as labio-lingual diameter. Now the labio-lingual diameter can be measured in two places. One at the cervix, the neck of the tooth. The two at the crown. The crown means the highest point on the labial side and the highest point on the lingual side. That measurement is the crown. So the labio-lingual diameter at crown is the crest of curvature on both the sides between them. At cervix is at the neck of the tooth. Now the labio-lingual diameter at crown is 7.8 millimeters and labio-lingual diameter at cervix is 7 millimeters. Now we have to achieve that. To do that, what we have to do is we had this stage, right? You can still see some excess wax. Maybe we try to remove that first. Do it slowly, no worries, because there are chances that you might break it if you try to do it quick. You know? Right. So once we do this, turn on any one of the sides, proximal sides. Now this is the mesial side. If you see the letter M here, so I'm starting with the mesial side. What you can do is again just make sure you draw those thirds. I have my incisor 1/3, middle 1/3 and cervical 1/3. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Cervical 1/3, middle 1/3 and incisor 1/3. Now let me put the long axis as well. We have this good markings here. The labiolingual diameter at the cervix is 7 millimeters. So for 7 I would take 3.5 on either side. So I'll mark 3.5 on either side of the midline. The labio-lingual diameter at crown is 7.8 millimeters, so we can take as 4 millimeters on either side of the midline, but that we have to mark within the cervical 1/3. Better to mark in the junction between the cervical and the middle 1/3. So I'll mark as at 4 millimeters on either side of the midline. So once I do that, you can join those 2 points and go till the long axis, because the incisal tip of the central incisor falls on the long axis. Join those 2 points on lingually also. So you see the shape. So this is what we have to achieve. The tooth is triangular, so this is what we have to achieve. So slowly start removing the wax from the marked area. So you have marked this area, right? So we have marked this part. So all these extra wax we have to remove it. So to do that, I'll start from the labial side. So this is where is my crest of curvature, right? This is where is my crest of curvature. So slowly I remove layer by layer. Just follow the markings what we have done and remove the wax. Try to do it slowly. So I'm trying to create the labial surface as smooth as possible, convex, with the crest of curvature at the cervical 1/3 area. It is very important to pay attention in the cervical area, because that is where the proper definition for a tooth is achieved. So try to remove a little bit of wax in the cervical area to give that constriction, cervical constriction. Of course we can do this later. So now we have a labial curvature. Labial curvature with the crest of curvature in the cervical 1/3 area. Let's try to do the same thing. We can still see the marking here on the lingual side. So we have to take out till that part. So gradually, slowly remove the wax. Make sure the cervical area is also as the crest of curvature. You can still see the line here, the markings. So gradually remove the wax. Because the palatal side is concave, we have to try to give a concave surface beyond the cingulum. So we have a kind of rough shape of an incisor tooth. Of course it still has work to be done, so let's see. Now if you see this tooth, this tooth is converging even lingually. I mean to say, the mesiodistal diameter on the labial side is definitely more than the mesiodistal diameter on the lingual side. If you see this from the incisal aspect, it's kind of triangular, isn't it? Because the tooth is converging lingually. So this convergence on the lingual side is called as lingual convergence. The one what we saw initially was cervical convergence. Cervically the tooth is converging. Similarly, the tooth is lingually converging. Look at this. It's kind of triangle. It's not straight like this, not parallel. Right? You see this convergence is called as lingual convergence. To do that, what we have to do is we have to cut a little bit of wax on this wide portion. This is very, very wide. So we have to remove some wax on both the sides. There's no measurement for it. Relative to your labial measurements, you have to remove that. So I'm just giving lingual convergence by removing some wax on the lingual side, on both the sides, proximal sides, on linguoproximal sides. the tooth is bulky, so I'm giving an overall reduction in the size. Addressing the tooth at the cervical area is very important, students. I'm just trying to reduce the overall dimension. It's slightly more, so trying to give a smooth surfaces as well as I reduce the size of the tooth. See how much time I'm spending on the cervical area, because that is where the proper definition for the tooth is obtained. Otherwise it just looks like a triangular piece. So make sure you spend sufficient time to carve out a nice cervical area. The lingual surface should be convex, concave, and again a little bit of convex. So it has to be something like this, where it has to be convex. Yes, it is concave. So we can still define the concavity, but yeah. So this surface needs a little bit of scoping out. So this should be your cingulum. So lingual surface is having a cingulum, a bulge, and a lingual fossa, which is kind of M or W shape. So you can kind of scope out on the back side of your carver two vertical lines. Just give a prominent bulge representing the cingulum, and then the lingual fossa. The lingual fossa is an irregular depression. Lingual fossa is an irregular depression bounded by mesial marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge, and the cingulum and the incisal edge area here. One more feature is, say this is the mesial side. The mesio-incisal line angle should be straight. It's fairly straight here. And this line angle is this line angle is mesio-incisal line angle. This line angle is disto-incisal line angle. So disto-incisal line angle can be more rounded. Because disto-incisal line angle is more rounded, the contact point on the distal side is a little bit higher up. It is more towards the junction of the incisal and the middle 1/3, whereas on the mesial side it is at the incisal 1/3. So rounding of the disto-incisal line angle is very important. Now that is one of the side identification feature of central incisor tooth. So I'm just trying to give proper definition to the cervical area and rounding of the disto-incisor line angle. Rounded off disto-incisor line angle, 90-degree mesio-incisor line angle, squarish appearance, cervical convergence. These are the very essential features. Mesial outline relatively straight, distal outline relatively convex. These are the very essential features of maxillary central incisor. Now this is distal, so this left-sided maxillary central incisor tooth. On the lingual side you see the lingual fossa. This is the cingulum, lingual fossa in the M or W shape, bounded by mesial and the distal marginal ridges and the incisal edge. This is how a permanent maxillary central incisor should look like.